Hello, welcome to the Book Coven. My name is Chelsea, and today, since we are in November and we're doing witchy YA novels for the podcast, I thought I would also take a dive into Toil and Trouble, 15 Tales of Women and Witchcraft, edited by Jessica Spotswood and Tess Sharp. This is a witchy anthology, and it was supposed to be 16 tales, but we'll get into that after. So I thought I'd go through all of the tales, which ones were my favorite, which ones I didn't really like. But overall, I did really enjoy this book. I thought it was pretty much a quick read because the stories were pretty simple and they were all really easy to get through and fun to get through. The best thing about anthologies for me is that it's so many different writing styles. So if you aren't really into one, it's over in a couple pages and you're onto a totally new, different writing style. And I think that's really cool, especially when it comes to witchcraft, because there's so many different angles you can take in terms of writing a witchy story. My favorite type of witchy story is more old school, witchy, less magic involved, more spiritual in nature type witches. So if you're also into that, then I'd take a look at Year of the Witching. That one was really good. But anyway, let's get into Toil and Trouble. Completely spoiler free so that you can read it as well. My drink pairing is tea. Oh, and this book is also very inclusive. There's lots of different races written about. There's a lot of queer characters, which is amazing. So if you're feeling like you're missing out on some inclusivity in your books recently, like this is a really good one for that. So the first story is called Starsong by Taylor Key Megia. This was one of my favorites. So it's always good for them to start right out the gate with a good story. So this one is about star children, basically. So if you've heard anything about a star child and like their powers and stuff, and this is about a girl kind of discovering her powers as a star child. So this one I gave 5 stars. I loved it. The second story, Afterbirth by Andrea Creamer. I didn't really like this one. It was a back and forth narrative from like a trial and a birth. And I just didn't think that meshed well together in terms of writing such a short story. There wasn't enough to go off of, and there wasn't enough resolve at the end. There wasn't enough witchcraft throughout. Like it didn't vibe well with me. So I ended up giving this one 1 star. The Heart in Her Hands by Tess Sharp. Okay, this one was pretty cool. This one was about having powers of lady fates, and maybe some witches, don't want to have her gifts. So there's another power that this witch tries to use her powers for, and it's kind of neat. It's a family defiance story coming out into your own character as much as, instead of just following in the footsteps of your family. This one was a really nice read. I gave it 4 stars. I thought the characters were fantastic. They had development and they had so much personality, even for such a short story. So I really liked this one. Good job, Tess. The fourth story is Death in the Sawtooths. This is by Lindsay Smith. This one had a lot more magic in it. You're a witch and your magic is to a certain deity, kind of, and each person has gifted powers essentially from that deity, and they're all related. So the Lady of Slumber has her own gifts when it comes to death and corpses and stuff. So the main character uses her gifts, and this story is kind of like a mystery, like what's going on, who's involved in this like bad thing that's been happening, and how can we solve it, and using people that, maybe don't get along. And it's kind of a story of bullying and not revenge, but like the bullies kind of realizing what they did and not to judge people so harshly. This was a really good story. I gave it 3.5 stars. The fifth story is The Truth About Queenie by Brandy Colbert. This one was pretty cute. It was kind of a love story in a way and a best friend story. And the main character. I really liked her. This was about more of a witch afraid to use her powers, and witches not talking about the fact that they're witches and that they have powers, even though it's kind of common knowledge that there are witches. So there wasn't so much magic in this one, and there wasn't as much... I mean, I really liked the meaning of the story in the end, so I ended up giving it 3 stars. This one's still really good. The characters are really good. It just could have done a little bit more. The 6th story is The Moonapple Menagerie by Shweta Thakrar. This one was kind of weird. I didn't really get this one. It was kind of like these witches were writing a play and you have to use your magics in the play. And without giving anything away, I just didn't get the story really. It didn't mesh well with me. I'd say about 1 or 2 stars. It was really cool. Like the way it was written was very descriptive and very elegant. So I probably 2 stars, but if it wasn't in there, I wouldn't have minded. Sorry, girl. The 7th story is The Legend of Stone Mary by Robin Talley. So this one was really cool, kind of a story about ancestors and knowing your heritage and revenge, but not revenge. Again, kind of like people not accepting witches for who they are, and just because they're scared of witchcraft, everyone's condemned for it. This story was really neat. I thought the characters were great. Again, there was development, even though, again, it's so short, which is perfect. So I gave it 4 stars. I really like this one. Very well written. Number 8 is The One Who Stayed by Nova Ren Suma. So this one was also fantastic. I really liked this story. There is a bit of a trigger warning for sexual assault, but it was very good. It was about more so women helping other women, and witchcraft and covens are perfect for bringing women together in that kind of regard. So this was women helping women in horrible circumstances and taking care of each other. And it was just a really good read. So I gave it 5 stars. Number 9 is Divine Are the Stars, and that is by Zoraida Cordova. This one was a little strange. It's a family reunion and everyone is just kind of arguing, I guess, like a regular family reunion. And some things turn strange. There's not too much witchcraft in it, but it was kind of a fun read, and there was a lot of nature involved, which I really like. So I gave it a 3 star. Definitely worth a read. So far, all the stories are... the better stories are ruling out over the bad ones. Number 10 is Daughters of Baba Yaga. This is by Brenna Jovanov. This one is kind of, again, about bullies and witches getting revenge over them. So it was kind of a fun read just for that. I guess with YA, it's a lot about bullies and coming into your own as a person, because that's what you do when you're a teenager. You deal with bullies and you come into your own. So this one was a 3 star. It was another just short read. It was just nice. I don't know if it's one that like stands out as a memory, like I'd remember it thinking about this book like months from now, but it was fun to read and I still enjoyed it. Number 11 is The Well Witch by Kate Hart. So this one was cool because it was very old school Texas. There were only 4 characters, 1 woman and 3 men. So gets a little brutal and violent for part of it. It was a bit longer than the other stories. Not enough magic. It was fun to read, but at the end, nothing really happened that... I mean, there was a good bit of revenge in there, but nothing happened to say that, like, this girl's a witch. It's amazing for that. It just left me wanting more, but not more of that story necessarily. I just wanted a little bit more depth within the story that was there. So I gave that a 2.5 star. Number 12, Beware of Girls with Crooked Mouths by Jessica Spotswood. So this one was kind of weird. I didn't really enjoy this one so much. It was 3 sisters, 3 witches, each with unique abilities. You don't really learn anything in the end. Nothing, I mean, a lot happens in the story, but nothing really comes of it. Nothing is learned, nothing is gained. It's all just kind of there, and it's a mesh. It's a lot of nothing, but it was written well. Just, I totally could have used something heartwarming in it or something to have resolved in the end, but I didn't feel resolved. It just felt like it ended. So I gave that one 2 stars. Number 13 is Love Spell by Anna Marie McLemmer. This one was okay. It's about a family that normally casts spells to remove love and desire from people. People who are in love with someone who is not in love with them. So they go to these women for a spell to get that desire out of them. And instead, this girl in the family is kind of using manifestation love magic. And that becomes her thing. And it's about like a priest acolyte who is being nice to the witches. And it's nice because it's, again, about people fearing what they don't know. And everyone is always like, oh, we like the witches when they're helping us and getting rid of bad hexes on us and doing all this nice stuff. But as soon as, when it comes down to it, it's like, oh, but they're still evil and we don't trust them and we don't like them. But this story is kind of about shifting away from that. It was well written. It was nice. I gave it 2.5 stars, which is, not terrible. Number 14, The Garen Girls by Emery Lord. This one was extremely heartwarming. It was really nice to read. I blasted through this story because I loved it. It's 3 sisters, each with unique gifts again, and because of course 3 makes a coven. So this family always ends up having 3 daughters, and then the middle child in this story was kind of having an issue with an abusive relationship. And it's kind of just about the sisters, how they're coming together to help her and using their gifts for each other, just to be there for each other. So this was a really nice story. I really enjoyed this one. And finally, number 15, Why They Watch Us Burn by Elizabeth May. This was by far the best story. It was so good. Also 5 stars, just like the last one. It was fantastic. This basically was like a why they burn witches and why they people don't like trust women of power. The whole story was just, it felt like it was partly in modern time, but like also partly in the 1600s where women weren't trusted and burned, just for whatever reasons. Because like the cities that were being written about seemed like they had skyscrapers and stuff, but then these women are being sent to camps if they're able to work, or they're burned if they're not able to work, right? So it was about these girls at this camp and talking about why do they want to hurt us just because we may have done something they didn't like. And it was very much the sexual abuse story of like a man hurts a woman, but then says it's her fault because of what she was wearing. It's very much that. So it's kind of like hard to read because it just makes you so angry, but it was so good. It ended so well. I did write down a quote that I really loved. There are too many people in this world who would rather see a woman burn than wield power. That was basically sums up that story. Overall, the book was very diverse, many queer characters, which I loved. I loved all the character development. The stories being each unique and each completely different from the last was fantastic. I thought they laid them out in a good way. They were edited together well. Like, definitely should have started with Starsong like it did and end with Why They Watch Us Burn. Those were the perfect end pieces to this anthology sandwich. Loved it. So there was a 16th story. It's a bit of drama from that end. I'm not going to get too into it, but it was going to be by Tristina Wright. It was removed because she was accused of sexual harassment. Her publisher dropped her and they ended up taking the story out of this book. So just in case you're having trouble finding that information, because it was like the ARC copy with that story went out to a lot of people, but that is why it is not in there anymore. So take that as you will. But yeah, that was Toil and Trouble. Since it is Witchy YA month, our other 2 books are Bewitch and A Wicked Magic. Check out our reviews on those and the podcast. The episodes will also be here on our channel. And let us know what you think of those. And if there are any other witchy YAs we can read, because I absolutely love this genre theme that we chose. It's really cool. It's fantastic. I didn't realize there'd be so many books in this genre just for this month. So definitely get Toil and Trouble. Definitely worth the read. And check out these 2 books if you're feeling witchier. Thanks so much for watching. Follow us on Instagram as well at the.book.coven. We do recipes to pair with our books, which is kind of fun. So check us out there, say hi, and stay excellent.